Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown, Jonathan Taylor.
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. And here on this Friday, as the week has come to a close and ready to hit the weekend. Thanks a lot for joining us. Of course, we're brought to you by our great friends, Andy Moore Honda and Endeavor Hospitality. Make sure you go to that Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club. Sign up, start earning Wow rewards today to great places like BB's, where I am right now, and come from you most Fridays. As we are here back today for our last Friday of the year. Won't be here for the remainder of December via traveling. I didn't think it was going to be here today, actually, but fly out to Kansas tonight. So is Indiana taking on the Jayhawks tomorrow, the number 8 Jayhawks. Dustin Schutte will be joining us on the program today. Alec Lasley as well from thehoosier.com. Rick Bozich, the Hall of Famer from WDRB.com. And we'll hear from Mike Woodson as well as the Indiana Hoosiers move on and travel to Lawrence, Kansas, to one of the most formidable places to play in the country. It is there with Assembly Hall. And from talking to friends of the show and former athletes, former players, McAfee is a tough place to play. So Assembly Hall, McAfee, and the fog out and the fog, then you add in you'd have to add in Cameron. Dustin, I was going over probably the 5 toughest places to play in college basketball. Assembly Hall, of course, Fog Allen, McAfee has got to be in there. Cameron's got to be in there. And I'm going to throw in the Dean Dome, not having been there, just because it seats 23,000 people, and I would assume that that's a loud place to play. But you know what? You don't hear anybody talking about that being an imposing place.
No. And you know what's one of the ones I think that gets left out maybe is the Breslin Center, because they've got the students wrapped all the way around that lower bowl there. And I wish more arenas, I wish more schools would go that route, because I mean,
Indiana needs to do that, dude.
Yep.
If people think Assembly Hall is a tough place to play, if they would do that with the students, it would potentially be the toughest place to play. But it's not, and you know, I don't know if there's ever going to be anything but that. But it drives me nuts to see the students just all the way up into the top. But then again, IU students they're rowdy, man. I think that they need to also be given a lesson in civility and say, all right, we're going to allow this, but the first one of you punks that yells out the F word or something that really egregious like that, bam, you're gone. If we find you, your credentials are jerked.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably a fair way to go about it, but I mean, that's not just an issue at Indiana. There's a lot of places where that's a big problem. It probably doesn't. But
you don't want it to be where you are.
Right, exactly. And I probably don't have as much of an issue with it, because to me, college kids are going to be college kids.
Because you're a young punk.
I'm a young punk. As long as it's not like the personal stuff. If people get too personal, that's when it gets a little bit edgy for me. But other things, I mean, it's just college kids having fun to me. As long as there's nobody fighting, which
there was one. There was one that was a little off color last year, but it was kind of funny and creative. I'm not going to repeat it. It had to do with Trey Jackson Davis and another player. It was pretty funny. Welcome aboard, everybody, on the Andy Moore Honda Hotline. Mike's jumping on. Michael as well. Howie, Jared, Larry's in the house. Larry B. So got that going for us, which is nice. We'll be in Lawrence, Kansas tomorrow, as I said. Tomorrow after the game with Todd Leary, another special guest. How about Clayton Anderson, country music star, and he's going to be in Kansas, so he will be with us live on the post-game show. So looking forward to that. Man, how about that? All right, we're following up back-to-back post-game shows. First of all, with Pat Knight, who had not done any IU media in 20 plus years since his father left Indiana. So I'm very proud to say that we were the first to get Pat Knight on. You know, and I'm just bragging a little bit. I don't mean it to be bragging, but you know, we have the only interview with Bob Knight when he returned to the IU campus, which has turned out to be the last interview with Bob Knight on the IU campus. So that, and we got Pat Knight first. So happy as can be about that. Pete jumping on from Minnesota. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's just another reason to subscribe, hit the like button, check out the post-game show. You never know who you're going to find.
You got that right, brother. We're just going to keep cranking it out and getting better and better, because Indiana Sports Beat is the only place where you can find this information and content daily, and the only place that goes to the events. We were in Las Vegas. We're going to be in Kansas. We'll be at the Big Ten tournament. We'll be at the NCAA tournament. We're at the games. So, yeah, this is the place to be. Hit that subscribe and like button. That's right. We're about to hit 3,000. I don't even know where we are, John. Where are we?
We only need about 10 subscribers, I think, to hit 3,000 at this point.
There we go.
And it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. So just hit that subscribe button and toggle the notifications so you know when not to miss an episode. We're on each and every day with regular guests, great guests like Don Fisher and Rick Bozich, Bob Kravitz, Dustin Schutte, Zach Osterman, Dustin DePirick, Matt Taylor, Chris Denari. It goes on and on. Then we had our special guest. So, Kenneth, how are you doing? It's finally Friday. Finally Friday. That's right. World Cup action is set. It will be the defending champion France, and that is, I believe this is the first time in probably 6 decades that defending champion has played, because I think it was only the first time that the defending champion had made the Final Four. They'll be taking on Mr. Messi and Argentina. Don't cry for me, Argentina.
Yeah, and this will
so
likely
what a
be...
storyline. You've got the defending champion trying to make history with a back-to-back World Cup title, and of all teams, France against Argentina, an old school. That's you think of soccer, you'll think of Argentina. Morocco gave it a great run. They but their ride ended at the hands of France. That would have been cool to see Morocco in there. No African nation has made the finals. They are the only African nation, I believe, to make the semifinals. Only correct. The fourth to make the quarters.
Wow.
So, there we go. All kinds of action coming at you. Knowledge.
I was going to say, I didn't know if John had a soccer stat for us. He seemed like the last couple episodes he's come up with some crazy soccer stat from the World Cup or from the Indiana, how they've lost, and the penalty kicks or the golden. What's it called?
I don't want to hear any more about that. Indiana game was just such a heartbreaker, bro.
Well, here's a fun fact. So France's star striker, Kylian Mbappe, he's only 23 years old. He was a part of the most recent World Cup team at age 19. And he could potentially have his second World Cup championship at only 23 years old, younger than all of us, obviously.
Did you hear
2 World Cups?
Did you hear how that rolled right off his tongue? What's his name?
I did notice that. Yes.
But Kylian Mbappe.
I mean, that is, first of all, excellent pronunciation by John, the producer. Second of all, that's a great name.
Oh, it's a fantastic name. Love it.
It just rolls off the tongue. Beautiful. Okay, so there we go. So he's going to be he's the young. I was caught off guard by the pronunciation of the name and just how well it flowed. John, what's the stat again? At age 23, what?
He'll have.
He's going to get the second World Cup.
He'll be. So he's France's star striker. I think he'll be one of the youngest I mean, maybe not the youngest. I don't have this right in front of me, but he'll be one of the youngest star players to have 2 World Cups already. And somebody like Lionel Messi doesn't have.
Well, he would have to be the youngest because, first of all, no one has repeated as champion in 60 years.
Of course.
So,
yeah.
And I doubt back in 60 years ago. Well, I don't know what was the age of the guys playing back 60 years ago.
I don't know.
Good question.
But it's kind of a passing of the torch. You have 35-year-old, I think he's 35, Lionel Messi with 23-year-old Kylian Mbappe taking on each other. This will likely be Lionel Messi's last attempt at a World Cup as well. So,
storylines galore. How about that? That's exciting.
Is there a possibility that Texas and Oklahoma are joining the SEC a little sooner? I think they were supposed to join in 25, right?
I believe so, but now I'm seeing I thought 24. It was 25, but now it's 24, correct? I could be mixed up on that. I don't remember the exact timeline, but I thought it was 2025.
They were actually supposed to be in the Big 12 through the 25 season.
Okay, so 26 technically then. Or
there was
maybe the 2025 football season.
I wouldn't think so. That would be kind of wonky. It just says through 25. So yeah, that's very possible. At Big 12's basketball media day in October, new commissioner Brett Yorkman spoke definitively about Oklahoma and Texas's timeline for joining the SEC. They're going to be here through 25, he told reporters. They've committed themselves in advance of me getting here, and they've reiterated that commitment. Behind the scenes, though, that's no longer the case. Multiple sources confirmed to The Athletic that discussions have been ongoing for several months regarding the Red River rivals leaving the Big 12 a year earlier than planned in time for the 2024 football season. Big 12 officials held a meeting in Las Vegas last week, and in portion of the meeting in which Texas Athletic Director Chris Del Conte and Oklahoma Athletic Director Joe Castiglione were recused because officials were discussing future business. Momentum emerged from an early exit, according to an administrator within the SEC. I don't know what that means. An administrator within the Big 12 confirmed that the tone in the league regarding this topic shifted following that meeting. So, we'll see. Keep our eyes on that. Not that I care.
It's I mean, they're going to do what they want. I don't know what the contractual obligation is, but I guarantee you they're going to make way more money in the SEC. So if they want to leave the Big 12 early, they'll just be able to pay that out of pocket and throw up the peace sign and walk out the door.
They were bound by the grant of rights when they announced this switch. So they've announced that they're repeatedly going to abide by that, but we'll see. Nobody abides by anything, and they all get away with it. How is that?
I don't know. I mean, what's it's just going to be a financial penalty of some degree, and I guarantee, like I said, they're going to make way more money in the SEC, so it doesn't even matter.
I agree. Texas
A&M
and Missouri each paid a reduced fee of $12.4 million to leave the Big 12 in 2012, about half the full penalty at the time. Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF agreed to an $18 million settlement with the AAC. A person familiar with discussions suggested that number amounts to about 1.75 times the media revenue they would have received. So I'm sure ESPN would much rather see Texas and Oklahoma over there.
Right. I'm sure there's going to be some nudging in that direction to get them over there as soon as possible to help their television markets, to help their spot. I mean, I don't understand why. I do understand from a television perspective why the Big 12 wants to keep Oklahoma and Texas as long as possible. But I mean, just make the move.
Well, Fox TV doesn't want it. I mean, they probably have, I think, the rights to the Big 12.
Right.
If it happens, Fox is going to expect a substantial make good if Texas and Oklahoma leave early. Worth noting, Fox has the first pick of Big 12 games in 2024, and that pick is often the Red River Showdown. A reduced payment amount of some other financial compensation would need to be negotiated.
Well, there you go.
So ESPN would probably be involved because they'll own those schools' rights, 2024 rights, whether they remain in the Big 12 or the SEC. So there's been speculation the network would want OU and Texas in the SEC sooner to be part of the Game of the Week package that currently airs on CBS, because CBS is now going to be switching over to ESPN or to the Big Ten. So all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's been a crazy carousel, but hopefully by 2025 or 6 or sooner, we'll get this all figured out, straightened out, and we can all move on with life.
Pat McAfee is the athletics media person of the year, beating out Dustin Schutte by a little bit.
Just nudged me out. Just nudged me.
Yeah. He backflipped into the Tennessee River in Knoxville. He grappled with Vince McMahon and Steve Austin at WrestleMania 38. He hosted an eponymous daily, or he hosted an eponymous. How the hell are you saying that? Eponymous?
This reminds me of that.
Hippopotamus?
This reminds me of that scene from Big Daddy where he's trying to read hippopotamus. He can't quite spit it out.
I think it's eponymous, but I do not know what that word means. I don't know what it means.
It's whenever you name something after yourself. Like if somebody has an eponymous album.
So why don't they just call it self-named?
They can say that too, but they just wanted to sound smart by using.
Here's what I'm going to say. He hosted a self-named daily YouTube show from Indianapolis. If it seemed that Pat McAfee was everywhere in 2022, he was. College Game Day. Now, he's awesome on College Game Day.
Yeah,
he makes College Game Day now. I mean, he really does. Where's the big belt buckle?
Yep. I thought going to 3 hours. I haven't watched much College Game Day, but when he's on there, he does make the show a lot better. I agree with that.
Oh, it's not even close, man. Yeah, there's no having. There's a couple people. What's the dude? I can't think of his name. Dark-haired guy that he's not on the panel. He's
David Pollock.
Yes,
he sucks.
Yep. I'm not going to say that, but he's pointless. It's just like he's pointless. I don't know what he's like Seth Davis. I'm not a fan of Seth Davis. He seems to be real anti-Big Ten.
He is very anti-Big Ten. Yes, that's correct. I've never really cared much for his takes. He's very knowledgeable, but there's always some sort of Big Ten bash he's got to get in.
Yeah. Forrest is on. Michael, the Music Man. Robert as well. Open. Hello, Scott. We got to take a break. Alec Lasley's waiting for us. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by BB's Market, a part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wild Club, where we are right now. Make sure you stop by and have breakfast, order great meats to go, or bakery as well. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Dustin, real quick, could you do this without the headphones? I think the headphones give a lot of feedback, at least with the lack of internet that you have right now.
Yeah.
Just unplug them for a second and practice. Let's see what it's like.
How's
okay,
that?
just start. Just talk for a minute.
Can you hear me?
Hold on. Yes, I hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Is it? Yeah, I can hear you. Are you guys good?
Yeah, that's much better. Let's do it like
All right.
You
that.
sounded great, actually. There's no popping, and yeah.
Sweet.
Much better.
All right.
Man, I was hoping I wouldn't have to listen to Dustin.
Do you have any?
Have that internet connection real choppy.
Hey, Dustin, do you have any earbuds?
No, I have the ones you sent me, but they don't. They give even worse pop than those.
I'm always shocked by writers who don't have shit technologically.
Wait.
Kevin Brockway was the absolute worst. He had a laptop that had to be like 10 years old. Everything. I'm like, Kevin, surely to God you have a pair of headphones at home. I've got like 50 pairs of those little wired headphones of all sorts. None. He had none. I'm like, how's that even possible?
Here's what happens with mine. Either I break them or one of the things goes out and I only get one earbud that works, and it drives me insane.
Thank you. Look at that.
What'd you get next?
You can take that plate away. Thank you.
What is he on? Like his 5th serving over here?
This is first, baby. This is my own little order.
That bacon looks
my
good.
Lord.
That's scrambled eggs with
Yeah.
potatoes, jalapenos, onions, sausage.
We got a skillet going on.
No way
Yeah.
you get out of that seat after you eat that.
No way, what?
No way you get out of that seat after you finish that.
Please. I won't eat the rest of the day though.
That's
You ain't
fair.
gonna make it to Lawrence. We'll just pass out in BBs.
You're not going to Kansas, are you?
No.
We're not in Kansas anymore.
I'm waiting for
That's
you
for
to
sure.
say that on Monday.
Oh my God. Don't tell him that.
What'd he say?
When you come back on Monday, say we're not in Kansas anymore, folks.
We won't be because I'll be in Florida.
You can
I know,
still
but do
use
you
it.
get the pun or the joke?
No.
It's not really.
That's right.
It's a joke.
No, that seemed to fly right over his head there.
Oh,
He's
I
too
got
busy.
All right, here
Look
we
at that
go.
big old
The Ryder
jalapeno.
Presley made fair, tying their roots in limestone with their love of Southern eateries. With quality, local, and organic food as their main focus, Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Holy moly. Look at this delicious. I know that if you're listening, you can't see this, but if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the steam rolling off of this beautiful bowl of, I call it the gym special, whatever. It's what I make at home, baby. Scrambled eggs, potatoes, jalapenos, onions, mushroom. I forgot to tell mushroom.
Mushroom?
Boy, don't you get on my mushroom thing again. Mushrooms.
So you named it after yourself. What was that word we were trying to figure out earlier? Because you just put it to use right there.
Eponymous.
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 All right.
This
there you go.
This is an eponymous meal. Boy, I gotta stop saying it. I don't think I can say it anymore. I'm not saying it correctly. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com joined us. How's it going, brother?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Cannot complain. Alec was in Kansas amongst the rest of the Hoosier.com crew who were there in force. Say the most, without question, the most media presence there by the Hoosier.com. Yourself, Keegan Nicholson was there, Kyler Staley was there, Mason Williams was there. So all four of you guys there's man covering that. Did not turn out the way the Hoosiers would like to have seen it, but I think that it was a lesson for them that as good as they are in the paint, man, they're going to have to find ways sometimes to do other things. Trace Jackson Davis pretty much shut down in that game. Race Thompson doing his damage from outside, which was helpful, but on the other end, I don't know that did that hurt Indiana because they had zero punch inside, which I don't think that's going to be a problem this week. But going forward, it's probably not the last. I mean, they're going to play a team like Purdue, who has the potential to do that as well. Not quite as big as Arizona probably, but very similar.
Yeah, to a certain extent, right? I mean, Arizona's probably going to be the biggest team, with multiple different guys in terms of depth that they'll see all season. Not a lot of Big Ten teams have that consistently where you can bring a 7-footer off the bench to go with 2 7-footers, and not just 2 7-footers in the starting lineup that are, 215, 220 pounds. Those guys were 245, 255, 260 pounds. were bigger, stronger, and tougher than Indiana's bigs. And right, I mean, we've seen this now as a consistent trend with this front court over the last 2 years, where when they go up against really tough physical front courts, they tend to struggle. May not struggle for the entire game, but they tend to get off to slow starts because they're not used to that kind of physical play, because usually they're the more physical front court. And so when they get punched in the mouth, they typically, take that, and it takes them a while to kind of adjust to that type of not only tempo, but that type of physicality that the opponents are bringing in. Obviously, Arizona brought that from the opening tip. And I think Indiana, though, did a pretty good job of, basically rebounding from every single punch that they did take. A lot of people are going to look at that goaltending mixed in with the flop call on back-to-back possessions there as kind of the key moment, but they were still able to come back right after that. It was the 19-0 run or 17-0 run there in the very early stages of the game that really set Indiana back, because they were trailing by double digits, almost the whole game after that. When they would make a run, right, it was still only cutting it to for the most part, 5 or 6 points, and they were only able to get to that kind of one possession game basically only once or twice. So that was the one part of the game that Indiana had that they really were not able to bounce back from. But I think the resilience of the team still showed when they kept taking punches throughout the game and kept coming back and kept making it close. And, I think that game was a lot closer than what the 14-point, 12-point, separation at the end of the game.
We talked about this last week with you, Alec. I thought that was kind of an NCAA tournament, like experimental game, primer of what you're going to see when the tournament comes along. To me, I thought, even though you didn't win the game, I thought it was really impressive how they continued to counter punch. They never gave up in that game. I think you saw it was a much different feel than the Rutgers loss, right? Like, you just didn't feel like the energy was there. You didn't feel like they put it on for 40 full minutes. And even though Indiana got off to a slow start against Arizona, I felt like they never really threw in the towel. What was interesting to me about this game was, if you look at the stat line, if you would have told me Indiana shot 10 of 25 from 3-point range, I'd say we probably have a 4 or 5 point ball game one way or the other. I think that there are some positives that you can take away. Obviously, I'd like to see that game again with Jalen Hood-Schifino, but when you look at the Big Ten's schedule and some of the bigs that they're going to have to play with, I mean, nobody's going to be quite as athletic and big as Arizona. But how do you think Indiana's going to be able to counter that, or is Arizona just kind of an anomaly on their schedule this year?
Yeah, I think the latter there, right? I mean, Arizona is a legit national title contender. I don't think you can really say that about a lot of Big Ten teams. It maybe only at this point Purdue, right? Because they have the signature wins to kind of show that. But outside of that, right? I mean, Illinois has had its ups and downs. Obviously, Indiana's had its ups and downs. So, you look at the rest of the Big Ten, and I think there's I don't want to say a significant drop off, but from 1 to 5, that entire starting lineup of Arizona is legit, and it's much better than a lot of the starting fives, not only in the country but obviously the Big Ten. Just the size, the athleticism, the IQ, right? I mean, they were playing 100% in sync the entire game, and that's because they've played together now for a few years, right? And you bring in Courtney Ramey from Texas and really did not lose a beat, right? I mean, and he really didn't have much of a impact in that game. So you look at the ability that they have to score from every single position, and that's one thing that Indiana is really not going to see in the Big Ten, right? You may have a couple different guys, but you're not going to see it to that extent that you will with Arizona. And looking ahead to Kansas, right? I mean, that's very similar kind of style of play. Really, really good, efficient team for the most part. Really good, fundamentally sound on the defensive end, but the one flip there is the size differential, right? The front court is not anywhere near what Arizona had. The depth up front is not anywhere near what Arizona had, and you're going to be going with much more of albeit still very tough and athletic front court. The size is not going to be there, and the bodies are not going to be there that Arizona had. So that's one thing that when you're looking ahead to Kansas, right, that's going to be a slight tweak, and you're probably going to see. And I asked Mike Woodson about this yesterday about what he expects to see from that Kansas defense, which is a lot more versatile and athletic. And you're going to see a lot more double teams probably than what you saw against Arizona. And, we've seen at times this year and just in the past, Trace Jackson-Davis really struggled to make it out of the double teams, whether it be a pass, whether it be relocating a guy. And that's one thing that they can't struggle with because if he's going to get locked down and not be able to kind of get up the shots that he would like, you're going to have obviously guys make open shots, but you're going to have to get the ball to those open guys. And that's one thing that he has struggled with. And that's going to be a huge key for tomorrow's game.
Yeah. Talking to Shea Wildeboer yesterday from Jayhawk Slant, the Kansas Rivals outlet. Kansas, he made it seem that the Kansas is really fearful of Trace Jackson-Davis and his presence in the paint because they don't have that. Like you said, they don't have that guy. They're not the Kansas that we know that always has a guy like that. So they're very susceptible, and they're susceptible to being out rebounded by this Indiana team, especially if Race spends more time down there along with Trace Jackson-Davis. And then if Malik has a good game and is able to stay out of foul trouble, George Geronimo. But I think that this Indiana has potentially a better chance of going to Kansas and winning this game than people think. It's going to be a very, very tough environment, which is going to push you into doing other things, making turnovers, making mistakes, taking ill-advised shots, bad passes, whatever. As long as they can stay in control and not allow that environment to take them out of their game, I think that they have a good shot. Plus the fact you might have Jalen Hood-Schifino playing in this game. We don't know. He's practicing, and I think that's a good sign. But whether he does or not, you have to plan that he's not. And if he does, great. It makes it even better because now that will make things even like on Kansas twice as difficult, because now if you put two actual playmakers in that can create their own shots, that can drive and dish and kind of bust up those double teams, and that's what it's going to take for those guys to double team. That means somebody's open. And if you have two guys that can get to the rim, even Miller Kopp, his shooting has been on fire. My God, he's shooting 47, 48, almost 49% from three. That's crazy because he's put up enough shots that's not, it's not like he's put up 5 shots this year. So Indiana has a better chance than I think people would think to actually go in and win this game, but it doesn't mean they're going to. I don't even know what the spread is already. I'd be curious to see.
Yeah, I mean, we sound like a broken record, right? But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to what Xavier Johnson can do on the floor with or without Jalen Hood-Schifino, right? As good of an environment as Xavier was, a couple weeks ago when Jalen Hood-Schifino was in the lineup, right? He wasn't able to experience the Vegas environment on the floor. Hasn't really experienced any sort of hostile road environment yet in his obvious young career here. So coming back off of an injury, I would expect him to play up to this point, right? We'll see how the back feels the rest of today and going into tomorrow, but everything kind of points to at least him giving a go. So we'll see how that reacts, but it's going to be key for Xavier Johnson to be able to stay level-headed and be able to outplay Dwan Harris, the point guard for Kansas, who is a terrific defender, terrific playmaker on the offensive end, not much of a scorer, but terrific floor general. And that's one thing that Mike Woodson wants to continue to see develop in Xavier Johnson, is that ability to just be able to play the game and be able to get players involved while he's also getting his. And that's one thing that he struggled with, especially against quick defenders and guys with quick hands on defense, because he can be a little loose with the handle, we all know. And that's going to be an extremely important aspect to that game tomorrow. If Xavier Johnson's not playing well, we know what the offense is going to look like with or without Jalen Hood-Schifino. So that's going to be extremely important going into that road environment that he outplays DeJuan Harris.
Dustin.
One thing, Alec, that I think is we talked about the schedule and the challenges that this is presenting for Indiana this year. I think it's really good because you look at it, and even though North Carolina isn't maybe the same team as we saw or expected to see, I should say, you go on the road and you play Xavier, but you got plenty of Indiana fans there. You go out to Vegas, you play one of the best teams in the country, national championship contender. You obviously have a large majority Indiana crowd there on a neutral floor. This is going to present a whole new set of challenges. Like I talked about this before the season started, like just having that opportunity to experience these different things, regardless of result. You want to be competitive. Obviously, you want to win the game. But I think that this just primes them so much for what you're going to see throughout the Big Ten season, what you're going to see come the Big Ten tournament, and then March Madness. When you look at it, it looks like a daunting task, but it's also just the difference in those challenges. I mean, they have to go play a couple true road games. They've got to play some neutral floor games. They had to welcome in, one of the best, or what we thought was one of the best teams in the country in North Carolina. I just think that even if Indiana's not able to get a win, or if you look back and you say you go 2-2 here, I think you're looking pretty positive just because you got that experience.
Yeah, I think, though, that the way Indiana started the last game with Arizona, they can't do the exact same, regardless of what the result is, because you can't keep falling behind and taking the first punch. I'm kind of waiting for they took the first punch against Xavier as well when they were down 9 early to them. So they need to get out much quicker than Kansas does, and that's, again, it goes back to what they do on those first couple possessions, because Indiana, if they make their first shot, they tend to just get a little bit more energy in that group, especially in that backcourt. So if they're able to come out, get a bucket right away, potentially get a stop on the other end, right, and just look a lot better than what they did against Arizona in those first kind of first 2 media timeouts, that's going to go a long way in obviously determining kind of what the outcome of this game is. But like we just said, this is really their first big test in terms of true hostile road environment. And that's going to be, extremely significant, especially for, a guy we haven't even talked about yet today, but Malik Renew, who has really struggled against Power 5 opponents this year. And I think that's one thing, right? Everyone was talking about him potentially being the better of the 2 freshmen with Jalen Hood-Schifino, and the way that he got off to such a great start. He needs to come out and be able to play, because I think this is a matchup that it would be perfect for him, playing even a kind of small 5 against this Kansas lineup. But he needs to be able to stay on the floor, and he hasn't been able to do that because of foul trouble. So, again, it's probably going to come down to, what these freshmen do in this environment. But, there's a lot of different keys that Indiana needs to be able to hit on. And the more and more we kind of watch this team, it seems like the same flaws keep popping up, and you're waiting for them to eliminate one of those, which they just have not been able to do in some of these environments yet.
Well, Alec, we'll look forward to seeing how this turns out tomorrow, because, like I said, I think this is going to be a different game than the Arizona game, even though it is going to be in a hostile environment. Going to look forward to it out at Fog Allen. Thanks a lot. Make sure you check into thehoosier.com. They will have live coverage of the game and everything leading up to that, with stories, pregame, and everything as well. Alec, thanks so much.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
You betcha. Hey, we've got lots more coming up. The Hall of Famer Rick Bozich joins us next. Brought to you by Goteen, a part of the Endeavor Wow Hospitality Club, where you can pick it up right here at BB's. As a matter of fact, I can reach back behind me and grab a pack of Goteen. Look at that. Unicorn. Oh, those pink with some sprinkles. Sprinkles! But Rick Bozich's up here next. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's a...
Morning, Rick.
Hello.
How's Ricky B doing?
Where are you, like in Buc-ee's or what?
BB's.
Buc-ee's.
BB's Market. It's in Bloomington, part of Endeavor Hospitality. It's
that'd be funny if he was
breakfast, brunch, early dinner, but it's a meat place that has these great meats, steaks. It's a full-size bakery.
Where in Bloomington is it?
Bakery, just north of Bloomington South High School.
Okay. On Walnut or College or whatever that's
College, on College. College.
I thought maybe you were in like Lawrence, Kansas or something.
Not yet, baby.
When are you going?
Tonight.
Flying?
I can tell you one place where I am going to be stopping though while I'm there. Whataburger.
You have a Whataburger in Kansas?
There are 7 of them.
Wow.
Yeah, I brought him to his attention yesterday.
How about that? Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. Dave Cattell, a great listener of ours from Jacksonville, where they do have Whataburger, but he knows I talk about it all the time. He sent for Christmas a Whataburger's gift certificate. And I'm like, well, I don't know when I'm going to get to use this, but it's Walnut, not College, Jennifer says. My bad.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, I plan on using that sucker tomorrow. Can't wait. My
Rick,
favorite.
U of L fans stormed the floor the other night when they got their win over WKU.
They did not storm the floor. The players did, but the fans did not. Yeah, you missed it.
Do what?
Watch?
I saw I actually did see the end of the game. I wasn't there, but I was watching on my phone.
Got a chance to make it 2 in a row tomorrow.
I hate that it had to be against Western, though. I love Rick Stansberry, but it seems like anytime he wins the games he's not supposed to win, and he loses the games he's not supposed to lose.
Yeah, that was not a good loss for them.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's the one that Louisville gets.
They were 8-1. I mean, even though they're a group of 5 team, I mean, they were favored in that game by 7.5 points.
Yeah, they were.
All right, here we go.
Next door to Southern Stone Restaurant on Patterson and Rogers. It's one of the most popular gathering spots in Bloomington. Whether you're out on a date with your spouse, friends, or coworkers, Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Coming to you, of course, today from BB's Market, part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wild Club Network, located right here on Walnut, just north of Bloomington South High School. A complete, your butcher, no matter where you live. These meats here are incredible, but you can also get breakfast, lunch, brunch, full-size bakery. You can pick up goatine here. You can get a lot, but great place to be, but not as good as here because we've got Rick Bozich. Rick, how are you, sir? Busy week?
Oh, it's been a busy, 12 days.
Yeah.
I woke up on Monday morning a week ago, and my phone was blowing up with the news that Scott Satterfield was on his way to Cincinnati.
Yeah, Purdue, a lot of storylines for Purdue. You've got Jeff Brom leaving, which that's got to be crushing to them, and Louisville getting the hometown guy, which, there is nothing that could have made those fans happier than Jeff Brom, and I understand than Jeff Brom being now the football coach. That's just, since Howard Schnellenberger, that's probably the biggest anticipated hire in their history.
I mean, he checks every box. He's a high school legend here from Trinity. He played at U of L and played well, won a Liberty Bowl for him against Michigan State. He coached on the 2006 Orange Bowl team. Now he's been successful at Western Kentucky and Purdue. Brings both of his brothers here. Brian will be here as the offensive coordinator after he coaches Purdue in the bowl game. Greg, his older brother, is here on the staff. His mom and dad live here. And the big thing for Louisville is if you look since the Schnellenberger era, I think they've had 7 coaches, and 4 of them were dudes who, like, the first time they saw a chance to leave, they were out of here. John L. Smith went to Michigan State. Bobby Petrino went to the Falcons. Charlie Strong went to Texas. And Satterfield, he leaves after year 4, but remember, he tried to leave after year 2 for South Carolina, which is why a lot of people didn't care that he left. So yeah, Brom should bring stability. He should bring entertaining football, and he should bring winning football. I mentioned the Trinity. As you know, Jim, Trinity and St. X are the 2 prominent football schools in this city, and he's connected to both of them. I think he's already flipped a defensive end from St. Xavier, a 4-star who was going to Purdue. He's coming to Louisville now.
And one of the things that interested me, Rick, and this was, kind of both Jeff Brom and Purdue Athletic, or Mike Babinski, both saying this, was it was almost kind of understood. Like, it makes me, you go back to 2000, after the 2018 season, when the job was, potentially offered to him, and he turned it down and stuck around. But it seemed like both guys kind of said, it almost like this under the table sort of agreement. Like, if that job comes open again, it's going to be awfully hard for me to turn it back down. I mean, do you think that there was some sort of understanding that if Louisville job came open again, like Mike Babinski might have had an idea that he was going to have to find a new football coach?
Yeah. Let's look at the contract. I think sometime over the last couple of years, Jeff, when he signed his latest version of his contract, his buyout went down from, I believe, over $5 million to $1 million. That made it much easier for Louisville to get him. And let's also look at, I'm sure we probably talked about it on the show. Last May, a couple of weeks after the Kentucky Derby, Jeff was here in town, did a couple of speaking engagements. One was at the Louisville Quarterback Club. The other one was at a group of alumnus from Flagey High School, which is where his dad and Howard Schnellenberger attended. And he very publicly at that meeting said, situation's different now. Back then I turned it down because I didn't feel right coming. If something happened now, the situation's different. That was definitely signaling, that if you need to make a change, I'm open to it. And it made Satterfield mad, which is understandable. But it was looking back, it was a pretty clear signal that he was ready to come home.
What was kind of funny to me, too, is that you peruse through Twitter and social media, and everybody's a genius on there and knows the coach that they want to get. But there almost seemed to be probably not a 50-50 split, but the people who were against hiring Jeff Brom seemed to be the loudest, and that's probably what a majority of what I saw. But going to that press conference and seeing how they just lined, the area and applauded Jeff Brom and everything he was saying, his appearances coming home. I mean, it really feels like Louisville is not just the athletic department, but they are all in with Jeff Brom. And as you said, because I think more so than the winning, which I think will come, it's going to be a different brand of football. It's going to be very exciting. And you go back to some of these Purdue seasons where they might finish 6-6, but if you beat a ranked Iowa and you beat a ranked Ohio State, I mean, that can make your entire season. So I did not expect to see that kind of turnout. I was really impressed with the Louisville fans who showed up, and they were all in on Brom from the second he returned home.
Yeah, there were about 1,000 people there. That goes back to just their appreciation for what he did. I think you have to put it into context here. I covered Brom some in high school. That was like 88. And he was a top they didn't have, the recruiting rankings then like they do now, but he was a top quarterback prospect in the country. He visited Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Tennessee, which were clearly much better programs than Louisville. But Schnellenberger was selling his dream here of what he wanted to achieve. And he turned down Lou Holtz and Notre Dame at a time when Notre Dame was going for national championships to play at Louisville. People in Louisville haven't forgotten that. That shows them how committed he is to this program. And so that's a lot of what you saw. It was a lot of his former teammates. It was guys who played against him or with him in high school. It was rabid U of L fans. And that's another reason I think Satterfield left, even though, Louisville had a decent year this year. They went 7-5. They're playing in a bowl game tomorrow at Fenway Park. But the crowds deserted them after COVID, and they really haven't come back to the way they used to be here. And I think Brom will get people back in the stands.
Yeah, it's great for them now. But Purdue hires. I'm so surprised. Yeah. Didn't not a big splash at all, and it would you would think that they have an opportunity. It's kind of like a couple years ago when Indiana had the opportunity to replace Kalen DeBoer. I'm like, oh man, this is a red hot position. You can get the hottest young guy, and they hired from within, and that.
Yeah, I mean that's a dangerous thing because if he's really good, he's probably going to leave, right? And
Big defensive fan.
He's an unproven as a head. He's got great credentials. A lot of people have been very impressed by the work he's done at Missouri and at Illinois. I mean, their defense was good this year. Couldn't beat Indiana, but their defense was good. I think you're better off at a place, that doesn't have the elite facilities, the elite tradition to go with a more offensive approach. I think you can find gimmicks, find ways to score points like Kevin Wilson did and win. To win with really good defense, to me, is hard in the Big Ten when you're not getting all the 4 and 5 stars. So we'll see. On Purdue, that seemed to be who they wanted. They moved pretty quickly. And it's a tough time to make a coaching change, too, because this is the last recruiting weekend. You can have people in, and signing days next Wednesday.
I think from the coaching perspective, I agree. I think the X's and O's, I think Purdue would be just fine. Here are some of my concerns, though. Like Purdue's campus is not a great campus. It's not very attractive. Right. NIL is not going to be a huge factor for Purdue, at least on the football side. What do you have to sell to recruits? Like with Jeff Brom and with Joe Tiller, you were able to sell, come here, we're going to throw the ball 60 times a game. You can be a Charlie Jones, you can be a David Bell, Rondell Moore, something like that. And that attracts some of those players.
I agree.
For a defensive-minded coach to come in and try to play bully ball against Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska now with Matt Rule, it's just going to be a very tough sell. And to me, I think Ryan Walters is an up-and-comer. I think he'll be a great head coach. But Purdue is a really tough job for a defensive-minded guy this is his first head coaching job. I was stunned by the hire.
Yeah, I saw – you guys might remember. I saw it yesterday. Haven't they already hired the offensive coordinator, and he is a guy with decent credentials? Who
Graham
is
Harrell, yeah. Graham Harrell.
Yeah, Graham Harrell, the Texas Tech guy, part of the Mike Leach tree. So they have a plan, but still – I agree with you. I mean, Purdue's done fabulous. What Brom did there was really good because, as you mentioned, in addition to that, it's a tough school. I mean, I'm sure you can find ways for guys to get in anyway and succeed, but generally it's a tough school that some people are going to be intimidated by. The weather's not great. I mean, there's a lot of it's not, you got to fly to Indy and drive up there. It's not like you're flying into Austin, Texas, or Knoxville, Tennessee, or Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or one of those places. So it's a challenging job for a first-year coach who's not only learning, how to coach the team as the head man. He's learning how to deal with all the other things you have to deal with as the head coach.
And I think that's probably the biggest concern I would have. I mean, like I said, I don't know how to say it any other way other than I think from the X's and O's, there's no doubt he's done a great job. He was excellent at Illinois, Missouri as a defensive coordinator, but running your own program and doing so for the first time at Purdue. I mean, I would prefer. There's no guarantee for this. There's a CBS Sports' Tom Fornelli may have the best tweet about this. Ryan Walters is a great hire. I have no idea if it'll work. Like that just seems to be, when it comes to coaching, that just seems to be the bottom line. So,
especially Dustin, in the context of what we just saw in the rest of the Big Ten, Wisconsin, one of your rivals, went in and got Luke Fickell, who was in the national playoffs last year at Cincinnati. Nebraska went and got Matt Rule, who won at Baylor and coached in the NFL. So, it's a different – I don't know if it's a financial situation. You don't have to pay this guy as much as you're paying those other dudes. I wouldn't think so because they were willing to pay Brom a lot of money. But it's a roll of the dice. In addition, I'll go back to what I said at the very beginning, though. It's a roll of the dice from the standpoint if he comes in there and tears it up at Purdue, he's going to become a hot commodity. He's going to be leaving again. So it's interesting.
One more question for you, and you already touched on this a little bit regarding the Brom situation. The thing I think that probably Louisville is most excited about is he's not a guy that, he's said this multiple times, he's not going to move around a lot. He's a guy that's probably, I don't know, that maybe a job if it came open like an Alabama, Clemson, something like that. Not saying he would be the first hire, but that might be something to attract him. But I think this is I think that this can be Louisville's coach for the next 15 to 20 years. I mean, do you get kind of that same feel that he's going to be, unless something crazy pops up, a Louisville lifer?
Yeah, for sure. He's kept his house here ever since he was the assistant coach here over a decade ago, and so did both of his brothers. So this is where their roots are. He's not going to be job hopping. The only thing I could ever see is if at some point he decides, if some NFL team comes after him and he wants to make the step up and prove that he can coach against the best people in the world, maybe. But I think that's a very, very, very small possibility. So, he's here. He's going to settle in. We got over 20 recruits coming in this weekend, including some highly regarded guys. They're active in the transfer portal. He's already been to California and Miami. He's off to a strong start. Hi, Jim.
All right. Well, while Jim's rejoining us, we're going to go ahead and take a break. Rick's going to stay with us, correct? Don't want to say that if I'm wrong. Okay.
Yeah. No,
Rick's going to stay with us. Dustin Schutte with us as well. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Barbara Pop Real Estate Services down in the southern Indiana area. We're back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore.
Wi-Fi issues?
I'm not sure. He hasn't. Can he even hear us?
Doesn't appear so.
Yep. Can now.
Okay.
Wi-Fi issues?
Oh, yeah. The Wi-Fi just shut down. And so I went to the phone and then it came back and I was trying to switch back and use the same headphones. And I was like, damn it, I can't hear anything.
Of course. You didn't hear what we said about you.
I'll tell you, it would have been all true.
What time are you going to Kansas City?
I leave probably, the flight is like 5 or something.
Is it nonstop?
No, to Minneapolis.
Oh, gosh.
It just sounds like hell. Especially right now with all the weather that's gone through up there.
It's just going to be lovely.
What time does it get to Kansas City? Kansas City, the airport's like 30 miles north of downtown.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, plus, and then where's
Lawrence is like about 45 minutes, I think, west of Kansas City.
Oh, boy.
You'll have a good hour and a half drive.
Holy crap.
Maybe it'll be an hour. I don't know. It's not like driving from Louisville International Airport to U of L.
Yeah, I'm going to hook up with somebody and get a ride.
The only thing keeping you going is your Whataburger.
The hope. That hope's fading.
What if you get there, you find a Whataburger, and they're closing right as you...
Oh, yeah.
Won't happen. I will do my research. Trust me, I will do my research.
Is Whataburger better than In-N-Out?
To me, it's no question. In-N-Out's fries are terrible. Their burgers are just regular burgers. I mean,
where is Whataburger based? Where is it based?
Well,
Texas.
It started in like Oklahoma.
Oh, it is Oklahoma. Okay.
Or maybe it was Texas. I think you're right. It's Texas, and it was just in Texas and Oklahoma forever. I'd only know about it when I was rodeoing. I'd go there. Then it started spreading throughout the southeast down into Florida a little bit. Then a company from Chicago bought them 2 years ago with the plans to grow it. And now there's 7 in Kansas City. There's one outside of Nashville. There's some in Alabama. Just haven't made it up to us quite yet. I'm waiting. Of course, Bloomington will get it off Publix.
2 Publix, Jim.
Nobody cares.
Yeah. What? Bloomington 3 Publix.
That's a grocery store, man.
Yeah, they just
a lot of people like their chicken
week.
subs, though.
Oh, it's good. Don't downplay our Publix, and we're getting Wawa.
Yeah, I saw the Wawa.
Oh, Wawa's a big one.
But isn't Publix a West Coast thing?
10
Florida.
seconds. It's a southern thing.
Thing.
Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Of course, I'm here at BB's Market, just north of Bloomington South High School on Walnut in Bloomington. And 'tis the season for gift giving, and the Endeavor Hospitality Group is offering the best dining gift card in Bloomington from now until Christmas. For every $25 you buy in gift cards, receive an extra $5 gift certificate that can be redeemed at your familiar Endeavor Hospitality Group restaurant. Stop by the Allery, Cabello, Italian Kitchen, Southern Stone, Feast Market and Cellar, BB's, Courtroom Sports Grill and Pub, or Pub 15 to get the gift cards to keep on giving, or visit EndeavorHospitalityIndiana.com to order online. You must pick up the bonus gift card in the restaurant. Happy holidays from Endeavor Hospitality Group and Indiana Sports Beat. Rick Bozich is with us. Rick, Indiana taking on their second blue blood. Well, Arizona, I don't know if it's a blue blood, but exactly, Ruby. With Kansas, it's this is one of those great matchups at Kansas, so it's going to be in a historic environment. But this is a game Indiana actually might have a much better shot than Arizona. Arizona is much bigger than Kansas. And talking to Shea Wildeboer from Jayhawk Slant yesterday, he says that they're very concerned about what Trace Jackson Davis can do inside, because that's not their forte this year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to me, that was one of the biggest issues in the Arizona game, is that I can't remember his name, the transfer from Gonzaga, the big guy, it reminded me of Trace Jackson Davis's struggles with Kofi Coburn against Illinois. A bigger, thicker guy. He had problems sort of moving him off the block. He had problems scoring over him. What did he finish, 7 and 4? Is that what he had in that game? 7 points and 4 rebounds? It wasn't much. Yeah. Kansas doesn't have that. Kansas is more athletic, I think. I'm not sure they're as deep as Arizona. The tougher part of this game will be handling the environment at Allen Fieldhouse. It's one of the 4 or 5 toughest in the country. And Indiana will have to go in there and hold their poise together and integrate Jalen Hood-Schifino back into it. And Trace Jackson Davis, he's been playing. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I wonder if he's 100%. He didn't look as quick and as agile as he normally does in that game against Arizona.
And I feel like, too, Rick, I talk about this quite a bit. I feel like it's still hurting Indiana in games like they play against Arizona when he doesn't have a jump shot. And I think you look at the stat line. If I've said this 30 times, so I apologize. I'm like a broken.
I haven't heard it.
I think if you told me Indiana goes 10 of 25 from behind the 3-point line, they're going to have a great shot to win, and they lost by 14 points. That just, to me, speaks to the importance of having both an inside presence and an outside presence, not only against Arizona but in this game. And they've got to figure out a way to get inside points. And I just feel like Trace Jackson Davis's inability to hit a shot from the free throw line or inward is really devastating to them right now.
Yeah, I mean, both Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson didn't score around the rim against Arizona. I mean, Race had a good game because he hit all those threes, right, but neither one of them could finish around the rim against those Arizona guys. So that and Malik Renew, what do you have, 1 basket, maybe 2? His first few were blocked or he traveled or whatever. So all of those guys need to kind of show improvement. And as you mentioned, Jim, Kansas is not the inside force that Arizona is. Very few teams are. I mean, Arizona, to me, I know they lost that game somehow to Utah, which I don't understand, but I saw them in the Maui Invitational. I saw them against Indiana. If you asked me to make a list right now, Final Four teams, Arizona would be on my list.
Absolutely. I think they're going to be a number 1 seed. I don't know how they won't be. They're just so big, and they have the play to back it up.
And they're older, more mature guys. I mean, those guys who played in Europe they just look really self-confident and strong and, ready to go.
I just feel like, not to talk too much about Arizona, but I get the sense that you just hope that they miss. Like, I don't know that there is any way to stop them. You just have to hope that they're having a bad shooting night. Otherwise, it's game over, because they can beat you inside, they can beat you outside. Their big men move quick. They are incredible.
And they ran the floor like Cody Zeller, their big man. And their whole team got down the floor quick. I mean, they got down in their offense and got into it quick. They had multiple guys who could make threes. They played with a little bit of swagger. They had the 6'6" guy. I don't remember his name. He was from another European guy. He could drive the ball. I mean, they've got everything you need in a team. Every element you want, they have it.
Yeah, and this would be a great propel for Indiana into. I know they don't start conference play immediately right afterwards, but it would be a great boost for them to not only beat a team like Arizona or Kansas to win in an environment like that, because they're going to have to go to Purdue. I can't remember if they go to Michigan State this year or not.
Illinois.
But, Illinois, these environments, none of them. Purdue is the only one that's going to match Fog Allen, but it's going to be, if you can win at Fog Allen, you can win anywhere. I mean, that's a great learning lesson for them, especially the younger guys that are going to have to go through this for the first time. Malik Renew, Jalen Hood-Schifino, even Trey Galloway, those guys who are having a much bigger role in it. So Trey Galloway especially, he's probably going to have a bigger role, and he needs the experience in that as well.
Right. I mean, they're going to have to play better and handle that kind of stuff better than they did at Rutgers. I thought against Rutgers, they didn't have Hood-Schifino for the first time, so that was an adjustment. But I didn't think they handled the environment or the crowd or the toughness of the game very well. Rutgers was tougher than Indiana and took it to them, and Indiana didn't really respond. Kansas is going to do the same thing, and they're going to have to respond. And in both games they've lost, which have both been by double figures, they struggled early, and then they kind of came back, but never could get over the hump. They need to start better and start a little bit more assertively.
And one of the keys too for them has been Xavier Johnson. I mean, these 3 games without Jalen Hood-Schifino, he's played really poorly. I mean, I know he had 11 assists, so he did find ways to contribute. But I think against Arizona, 3 for 13, against Rutgers, I think like 2 for 9 or 10, something in that category. He hasn't played one. It makes me wonder, like, is he having I think that there's no doubt now he's having trouble adjusting without Jalen Hood-Schifino on the floor and having to play with Trey Galloway. Not that Trey Galloway is not a good player. It's just different styles. He maybe doesn't have quite that comfort level yet. But this is, to me, even though you have lost a couple games already, some of that learning curve, because there's going to be times this season when guys are hurt, when guys are going to be in foul trouble. You're going to have to learn to adjust and play with those other lineups. I mean, so to me, I think one of the biggest keys is Xavier Johnson trying to find some level of comfort and not press too much on Saturday like he has these past couple games.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he played better, I thought, in the second half or last 25 minutes against Arizona. When he was on the floor, I think actually I read somewhere that Indiana was actually, when he actually was on the floor, Indiana actually outscored Arizona. But I'm sure it is different playing with Galloway, because when you're playing with Galloway, opposing defenses don't really have to respect his outside shot. They can sag, and the other guard can sort of help off Galloway on Johnson. And that's not the case with Hood-Schifino, whose shot is also inconsistent, but he takes more. And he's made more. He's not shooting a high enough percentage yet, but you have to respect it because he's going to try and do it. Whereas Galloway seems to be mainly a guy who's either going to drive and dish or shoot that floater. He's not going to pull up. He'll take the open 3, but he's not going to try and create a jump shot for himself.
And I'm looking forward to seeing if Xavier Johnson, with that crowd, can maintain. You mentioned composure and poise. He's probably the guy that most has to do that. He's done a relatively good job of it. It is shown a little bit with the absence of Jalen Hood-Schifino. I think that he is realizing more and more the importance of what he has to do, but hopefully he'll have him out there again. He feels a lot more comfortable, obviously, with Jalen out there. Nothing against Trey, but Trey is not Jalen Hood-Schifino. He can't do some of the things that he can do. So it's going to be a big-time change for this offense if they can get him on the floor. But even having him back, I wonder, is he going to be at full strength? We don't know. But I guess if he's going to play, he's going to be able to play. There's no sense of being out there if you're half speed.
Yeah, the thing I'll say about Xavier Johnson, I mean, he's improved in the sort of extracurricular since he's been at Indiana, but he still seems to have 1 or 2 moments in every game where, like, he'll get a bad call or the opposing guy will do something to him where the other guy doesn't get called, and it seems to sort of then that becomes his focus instead of the game, of where he'll do one of those exaggerated things like it looks like he's a soccer player where he just got shot by a sniper or something, and just because a guy bumped him, and just concentrate on playing the game, stay the same level the whole way through. Don't get too high, don't get too low. He seems to get sort of his focus kind of switches away from the game to how the ref is calling the game or what the player is saying or whatever.
To that point, Rick, I think here's what's going to be interesting to me about this week. I don't know if anybody saw this, but I believe it's the round. I don't know what the podcast is called, Round of 68 or something like that, with a lot of current or former basketball players on it. And former Rutgers guard Geo Baker, after that Arizona game, said, "What can I say? They're soft." And Xavier Johnson commented on it and said, "Thank you." So again? I don't know if that's a good thing for Indiana because he'll be laser focused, or if it's a bad thing because he's going to try to prove to the world that he can be the best player in the country. Like there's two ways I think that can really go. I'm not knocking a 22-year-old kid for commenting on a Twitter post, but knowing what you just said about how Xavier Johnson can be a little bit of a roller coaster, that adds a level of intrigue for this game and how he plays to me.
Yeah, it's a level of social media awareness that I don't think is helpful. Don't worry about who cares what Geo Baker says. He's irrelevant now. He's not playing anywhere. He's got nothing better to do than get on the internet and troll Indiana fans, and they take the bait. Indiana players.
Well, hopefully the Trey Jackson Davis takes that to heart a little bit, though. Although it's not that he didn't try to play, he was just sometimes you're just up against someone who's better, and that was just the case. That's superior talent. We that was NBA talent that we were looking at for certain, and I don't know, but I think that also brings up, and this is a long ways off for this conversation, but the continued talk of what Trace Jackson Davis is going to be able to do in his future. I mean, that game right there kind of showed he's going to have trouble in the NBA because he took one jump shot at the very beginning of the game, but an 8-footer that didn't go down.
Right.
And I don't think they tried another, but that was kind of what we saw. He has another year of eligibility, right?
Yeah. I mean, he just needs to do it. He just needs to shoot more 10. I mean, Race Thompson's not afraid to miss threes. Not at all. He airballs some of them. He still keeps shooting them. I think he needs to be encouraged to shoot those 10 to 12 footers to get the defense to soften up a bit. He just doesn't seem to have that comfort zone in terms of doing that.
I'm gonna switch topics real quick, Rick. Sure. Big winning streak for Louisville right now. Big win. I was just curious. I mean, I've watched Louisville. I know you've been obviously on the beat there. They've looked pretty bad through most of the season. Was there any sort of sign of optimism from that win against Western Kentucky that you have moving forward? I know they've only got a few non-conference games left before they hit a tough ACC schedule. So any sort of hope or optimism after seeing them beat Western Kentucky?
Well, there was no sign going into the Western Kentucky game that they were going to win that game because they got run out of the gym by a 1-9 Florida State team last weekend. Yeah, I think there were some signs. You had one, they played harder the whole game, and they were actually diving on the floor for loose balls. They were 2 or 3 guys going to the rim to rebound. Sidney Curry, who was a guy who last year, maybe over the last half of the season, was capable of giving them 8 to 12 points a game and 5 or 6 rebounds, finally had his first double figures game of the season. I don't know what's been going on with him, but it's been the biggest mystery about the team. Making 13 to 25 threes isn't sustainable, and it makes you look good. But they had a freshman guard, Fabio Basili, who played better. They had a freshman guard by the name of Kamari Lance, who hit 3 threes and all 6 of his free throws. He showed signs. If they play like that, they should win the next 2. They've got Florida A&M here tomorrow. They've got Lipscomb here on Tuesday. Then they go into AC. No, they got somebody else in Kentucky, I think. But then they go into ACC play. if they play the way they play against Western, I could see them winning the next 2 and winning, 3 to 5 ACC games because there's some bad teams at the bottom of the ACC. Georgia Tech is bad. Pittsburgh's not very good. Syracuse is just okay. They have Florida State up here. There's one other team up. Clemson's not very good. Wake Forest is okay. I mean, they could pull out some wins.
Is it who is Arizona? Obviously, is one of the teams we keep hearing UConn. I have not seen UConn play.
I've
Purdue,
seen them play, and they've won every game.
Where are they?
Where are they? They're top 5.
You've seen Arizona, Purdue. Who is anybody stood out to be number 1 to you? To be, I mean, I know that's
I'm voting Purdue number 1. I mean, I think long term, in terms of, I'm not convinced like winning an NCAA championship are going to do that with those guards. They've played well so far, but once you get into the tournament, I voted Purdue first last year. I was one of the first ones to vote them this year. I'm not an anti-Purdue guy, but I remind people, who are talking about Purdue, that they were ranked number 1 a year ago at this time when they lost to St. Peter's and didn't win the Big Ten. So things can change. Arizona is the most impressive team I've played. If not for that loss to Utah, they'd be number 1. I don't understand how they lost that game by 16 points. But
that was a shocker.
Virginia's up there somewhere, although, they're not going to blow you away with their athleticism or their style of play. It's going to be the Virginia experience.
The defense.
Don't they play? I think they play Texas tomorrow, don't they? I think they do.
That'll be a good matchup.
I'm pretty sure they do. So it's Virginia, Purdue, Connecticut, Arizona, Alabama. You got to throw in there now. Although Connecticut smoked Alabama, that's another reason to respect Connecticut. They beat Alabama decisively, and Alabama just beat Houston at Houston. So Arkansas is good. There's another one. The SEC, in my opinion, this year has the highest level of teams.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi State is unbeaten, and Auburn. They got 6 teams that are all capable of being, 5 or 6 seed or higher.
I was wondering earlier. I hadn't got to look this up, but I'm wondering what's the fastest a team has gone from unranked to number 1.
I don't know. That's a great question. Who's that? UConn?
Purdue.
Oh, Purdue is unranked too. Yeah. I don't know. That's got to be. They're in the discussion.
Because we already had the fastest team to go from number 1 to unranked in North Carolina this year.
I didn't say Purdue because I did have Purdue like 23rd or 24th on my preseason top 20.
I was shocked that they weren't in. I'm like, come on, man.
My respect for Matt Painter has earned that respect.
Yeah, it's not like he's rebuilding. My God, he's got Mount Edie and a ton of guards. There's some young guys there, obviously, but I was like, I don't know why people are not looking at Purdue. I mean, my God, they're always solid every time. Rick, what's up next for you, buddy?
Tomorrow I'll be watching Louisville, Cincinnati, the Wasabi Fenway Bowl at 11. Then I'll watch Indiana at noon, and I'll be downtown at the KFC Yum Center to watch FAMU in Louisville.
Wasabi.
Yeah.
I thought wasabi was just a thing.
I don't know. It's the Wasabi Fenway Bowl, and the over and under how many fans are going to be there, I'd put at 4,000.
From Louisville?
I don't think there's hardly anybody going from Louisville or Cincinnati. Why would you? And who in Boston cares about Louisville against Cincinnati?
Right.
I don't think there'll be anybody there. Hardly. But maybe I'm wrong.
Rick Bozich from WDW.com. Make sure you give him a follow if you're not already. That's crazy. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Look forward to talking to you.
I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Yes, sir. The great one. We've got more coming up here live from BB's. And don't forget, 'tis the season to get those gift cards. I lost where that says, but I lost it anyway. 'Tis the season for giving, and the Endeavor Hospitality Group is offering the best dining card in Bloomington from now until Christmas. Get those $25 gift cards, and you get an extra $5 gift certificate. You can go to EndeavorHospitality.com, EndeavorIndiana.com, rather, to order online. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home,
travel safe this weekend, brother. Good
Larry,
to see you. Thank you.
appreciate you. You bet, buddy. Thank you, buddy.
Good
Appreciate
job.
you.
Yes, sir.
I've got Woody
Bring home
clips
quick.
for you. Where'd it go? There we go. Kansas preview and Jalen Hurts-Shafino update.
Who? What we got?
Woody, one of them's just a general preview of Kansas, and the other one is an update on Jalen Hurts-Shafino.
Do you have Alec's question by chance?
I don't.
What did he say he asked him about?
Well, I don't remember, but he told us what he said, so. Excuse me. Where is the second one that I put on here? I have all this organized. I just have so much of it. I need to clean it out and get rid of some old stuff. Just because there's so much of it on here.
Chowing down.
There we go.
Busy day.
I think you should just talk with your mouth full the rest of the show.
Yeah, same.
There's bacon in there. I didn't know that.
We'll try to decipher.
I wouldn't do that.
Oh, boy.
If Purdue is successful with Ryan Walters, Dustin, do you think he's like a 2 to 3 year coach at max?
That's a good
That's why I
question.
always hate these kind of hires because you know they're not long term if they're going to win a lot.
Well, they're probably not long term either way. You know what I mean?
I mean, if they have a good season and then a bad season and then a good season and then a bad season, maybe.
I mean, I think if he's like Jeff Brom successful, where you're 6 to 7 wins and then maybe you're in the hunt once every 4 or 5 years, I think he would. I don't know that anybody would take a flyer on him, but I don't know, man. It's so hard. Purdue's just a tough job. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, it's just like Indiana.
Yeah. Here we go. 10 seconds.
it will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hobbs's Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill and Bacon. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Oh, welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Coming to you, of course, live from BB's Market, located just on Walnut, north of Bloomington South High School here in Bloomington. Great place to catch breakfast, brunch, lunch. More importantly, these great meats and the full-size bakery they have. It's incredible. Big weekend for Indiana, as we've talked about, of course. They head to Lawrence, Kansas, take on the number 8 Jayhawks now? Number 14, Indiana. They did not drop. Jalen Hurts-Shafino, question on whether he's going to play or not. Been waiting. He did not practice before Las Vegas, so we kind of knew that was not going to happen. And then held out for most of this week, but I think was able to practice yesterday. Mike Woodson met with the media yesterday, and he had to say,
well, today we're going to start him out on the floor and see if he can go practice. You know, the last few days he's kind of shot around and done some things, and he's moving around. So today we're going to let him bang a little bit and see where he is tomorrow.
So hopefully he'll be good enough to go because I'd certainly like to see both of these teams, Dustin, at full capacity. That's you want to see the good stuff, and I've just got a feeling that you will. I hope he's been held out long enough that hopefully that he's ready to go. And boy, this will be a great place to do it at Fog Allen as Indiana travels to take on the number 8 Jayhawks. And this, if they could manage a win there, you talk about a great resume is to have on your resume at the end of the season. That would be quite nice.
Not only that, but we talked, I think before the season, if you looked at this and said you go 2-2 in those 4 games, you take it. And right now they're on track to do it. Now it feels a little bit different because of the loss to Rutgers, because of the way you lost to Arizona. You didn't come out of the gate very well. But what this team has lacked the last 3 games is we have not seen them at full strength. I mean, they played really well against Nebraska. They bounced back after that loss to Rutgers, and then they didn't get run out of the gym by Arizona, but they were thrown off and I think a little bit surprised by the speed, the athleticism, just the amount of shots that Arizona was going to put up in that game. And we talked with Rick earlier. I just think when you're playing a team like Arizona, you just hope they miss. Like there's nothing you're going to be able to do to stop them. You just have to hope that they miss. But this is a game where you want to see Jalen Hood-Schifino. You want to see what this team can do on the road at full strength, because we saw it against Xavier. That was early in the season. Some young guys are still trying to find their footing. They're trying to fit in. They're trying to get chemistry going. This is a really big opportunity for them. So if they have to play without Jalen Hood-Schifino again, I mean, it hurts their ability to win this game. I don't think it hurts their competitiveness level, but I just think you want to see what this team can do at full strength on the road in a big-time matchup, in a big-time game, and then that gives you a little bit of a gauge as to where they can go in the Big Ten and what they can do in the Big Ten. So I hope he's back on the floor, and because these are the games you want to see everybody at full strength. We don't want to talk about another game where what could have been if Jalen Hood-Schifino was on the floor. Maybe they beat Rutgers. Maybe they beat Arizona. Maybe they still have the 2 losses. I don't know, but I think that Indiana fans are, and there's obviously nothing you can do about this. It's a little bit of the tired of the what if he was on the floor. You want to see what they can actually do with a full lineup and full strength.
Well, and talk about marquee. Last week when Adidas announced their foray into NIL, and they announced who those players would be, there was only one school that had 2 players on that. Indiana, with Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood-Schifino, both adding to that list. They're the only school with 2 players. And I don't know how many players they even added. Ironically, Grady Dick from Kansas is also one of those. So there's going to be 3 of them in this game. Another reason, I keep kind of bringing this up, and I know it's early in the season, but that's another reason the possibility of Trace Jackson Davis could come back. If he continues to pile up NIL deals, why would you go elsewhere? Because unless those deals followed you, which I don't know that they would, maybe some of them, but he's continuing to add up the money that he's making right now. I don't see that there would be a reason to cut that off, because you would be slashing it. So just something to keep in the back of your mind.
Well, obviously we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. We'll see what kind of evaluation he gets from the NBA. But I think one of the big keys here, go back to last year, everybody thought Oscar Tshiebwe was going to be a top 10 pick, and he comes back to Kentucky because of the NIL stuff. I mean, it completely changes the game, and it completely changes the mindset. I mean, here's the interesting thing to me. Trace Jackson Davis, I think, is still incredibly athletic. I think he's a great basketball player, but unless he develops some sort of jump shot, he's just not going to be that effective as a professional in the NBA. So that then leads, okay, are you leaving money on the table by declaring for the NBA draft? The other factor, though, is we haven't seen him develop a jump shot during his time at Indiana, so does sticking around to actually help him out in any regard? I don't know. It's a tricky question. I don't know what the answer is going to be, but I think because of NIL, because of the opportunity to make all that kind of money, and then we'll see some top 10 draft picks that'll stick around an extra year. There's always that possibility. It's going to be incredibly interesting.
We saw that last year. Oscar Shibwe, the only reason he's here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Armando Baycott. I think that's the only reason he's here.
Right.
Those guys. So, and again, I mentioned mock drafts. You don't see him. So, oh well, that's a discussion for later. But he just. I think he can have another big game against Kansas, but Kansas is going to focus on him a lot. He has to be smart and kick that ball out, and Indiana has to continue shooting the way they have been. If Miller Kopp can continue shooting the way he has been, and if Jalen does play and Xavier plays under control, I think that this game favors Indiana.
Yeah,
as hard as it is to say, I shouldn't say favors, but I think it's a lot closer than people think.
It gives them a great shot to win. I agree with that. I think what the strategy is going to be is I do think Bill Self is going to focus on Trayce Jackson-Davis and say, hey, if the other guys hit shots from deep, then that's how they're going to beat us. We're not going to let Trayce Jackson-Davis
Well, that's what Kansas did, and it worked.
Yeah, they're not going to let him go for 30 and 15. They're not going to let him dominate. He's too good a player. Bill Self is too good a coach to let that happen. I think they're going to force Indiana to make some outside shots. Now, the one positive is in a lot of games this season, they've shot the ball from deep pretty well. Now, I think it's funny because we've talked about Race Thompson. We don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for him to be out on the perimeter, but if he's going to shoot some of those threes, he's also got to be able to finish around the rim. Indiana's going to have some paint presence because in the 2 games that they have lost, they got controlled in the paint. Or not, maybe I shouldn't say got controlled, but they could not find the basket when they got in the painted area. So that's going to be a big factor in this game. If Indiana's hitting 3-point shots and they can stretch the defense out a little bit, that'll open some things up for Trayce Jackson-Davis. But I think he is a smart player. I think he passes when he needs to, but there are going to be times when he's just got to say, you know what, I'm going one-on-one, I'm going to the basket. Or I've got good position here, I'm going to make my move, I'm going to draw a foul. He's got to be, I think, a little bit more aggressive because against some of these more competitive teams at the higher levels, we just haven't quite seen that yet. And I think that this might be a game where hopefully Mike Woodson challenges him to do that. Are you going to be a leader? Are you going to take those opportunities? Or are you going to pass them up all the time? He's, in addition to having a high basketball IQ, he's also got to be a little bit selfish in the paint for Indiana to be successful.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the line on this game. Has anybody seen it? I haven't looked. It's not popping up on mine.
I haven't seen it either.
Kenneth thinks that if IU could get a bigger complimentary big to allow Trayce Jackson to play the 4 exclusively, maybe that in NIL could make sense for him to stay.
Well, okay.
But he can't play the 4 because he doesn't shoot the ball.
That's what
the
I was
problem.
going to say.
And not shooting the ball is his issue. He has just no confidence and just not doing it.
How is this? I don't understand. Can anybody explain this? How is it possible that I understand certain players have, but he is a great basketball player. And I think he's incredibly athletic. It was very weird to me that he cannot figure that out. I don't know how that's not gotten developed. I don't know if it's just.
Oh yeah, me either. I don't either.
It's one of the great mysteries of college basketball.
It is basketball, period. That's something you just do. You're shooting free throws. You have to shoot a free throw. So what's the damn difference?
And it's not
shoot
like
a 12-footer someplace else.
Right. And it's not like he's Kofi Coburn or Zach Edey or some of those other big men where they post him on the block and that's their one job is to, dunk, get a layup, hook, whatever the case might be. He's athletic. He can move the floor. I think he can defend a lot of positions. He's not the fleetest of foot, but he does all right. And it's just one of the mysteries because typically with those athletic guys, you can see them hit those jump shots and really stretch the defense. But for him, for whatever reason, it has just not clicked with him. And I feel like each season we've gone into, we're like, well, maybe this year will be the year we figured it out. I just don't know if it's ever going to happen for him. It is. I don't like to rail on the kid because he's a great kid. He does a lot of really good things on the basketball floor. It is just one of the craziest, most bizarre things I can remember in maybe the last 4 or 5 years.
Kenneth was, I missed the earlier statement by Kenneth on here. It's says that to me, it's hard to differentiate between UCLA, Kentucky, Kansas, Indiana, UConn, Arizona, UNC, Duke, Villanova, Louisville at a minimum. Then Georgetown, St. John's, Purdue, and several others are in a different tier. I mean, I think he's talking about the all-time, like the blue blood situation.
Yeah.
But to me, there are just the 5 blue bloods. I mean, UCLA, Kentucky, Kansas, Indiana, and who am I missing? Duke. It's because the national championships won. Right. All of those teams have won 5 national championships or more. Villanova certainly creeping there. They don't have the long history is the only difference. Theirs is coming in a shorter period of time. Louisville, just, they've only won 2 titles. To me, that's not quite enough. So I think that they're in the second tier. I think that's the second tier, along with potentially Michigan State. I don't know where St. John's fits into that, nor Georgetown.
And the problem is for those 2 specifically, Georgetown and St. John's, they haven't been good in a while. So,
and not only that, has St. John's ever won a national title? Period.
Probably, I don't know off the top of my head.
Time to take a break. It sounds like boss is telling us, and we'll do just that. Coming to you, of course, from BB's Market here on South Walnut. Great place to stop in, pick up whatever you need, and you can get those $25 gift cards from EndeavorIndiana.com. Get a $5 bonus along with that. So pick those up for any of your friends. Great, easy Christmas gifts. That's a great gift. That's an easy gift. Give it to anybody you like. Tell them we sent you. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Cabello on the Square in Bloomington, also a part of the Endeavor Hospitality Group, where you can taste the tastes and traditions of Southern Italy right here in Southern Indiana, right on the Square. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
He gone.
Okay. He's there, but he's eating. He didn't want to put it on camera.
Oh, come on.
It's funny. We were talking about Kylian Mbappe earlier. I just got a YouTube suggestion of a video. It's called Kylian Mbappe, Every Touch in France's 2022 FIFA World Cup. So it's 4.5 minutes of every time he's gotten the ball.
See, they listen to us.
I was going to say, do you think your phone is not paying attention to what you say?
No, I know that. We were talking about this last week about the Big Ten trophies or whatever.
Yeah, it popped up on Facebook immediately after. Immediately. I don't think we were on the air talking about that, though. Or maybe we were. I don't remember.
Either way, our phones are still listening.
That's true. They never stop. Big tech after us.
Big tech.
I want to know how that works.
I don't freaking know.
Oh. Oh. Oy, oy, oy.
All right, Jimbo, you've got about how long? Go. A little over a minute. Finish up your grub.
Different programs on your phone track things. Yep. I just don't know how it works. Of course, I don't really even know how the telephone works, to be quiet. If we're being honest, no idea. Well,
you're literally talking into a box, and it gets sent to somebody else's box.
This is what people are like, well, they explain it so easily, but I have no idea how the technology actually works to any of this.
Like how are we doing what we're doing right now?
Exactly. I don't know how internet works. I barely know how a microwave works, to be quite honest.
That's a little easier to think about, but
it is a little bit easier. But how does it heat up your food and not be hot? It's crazy.
All right. You good, Jimbo?
Yep.
All right.
Oh.
No, we're good. We haven't come all the way back yet. We just brought you back in.
Well, and organic food is their main focus. Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here. On this Friday, of course, coming to you from BB's Market, part of the Endeavor Hospitality Club. Make sure you get those gift certificates, man. A little bonus, $5 bonus. Great Christmas gift. They can use it all over. Students, if you have a student here, anybody that lives in the area, or if you come to games, use it all the time. Dustin Schutte from Endeavor from outsider.com with us, as always. Do you know what a floater in your eye is?
I do.
I don't either. I thought I'd scratched my cornea because for 2 weeks I've had this, like, you know how like if you get a hair in your eye, it's like it just sits there and you can. Well, that's aggravating, but you can see it. Well, there's something going on that I can see, but I can't feel. It's just been like 3 weeks, and Larry, who was here live, said it's a floater. I'm like, what the hell's that? He's like, it's a spider web. I'm like, that's exactly what it is. It's like a spider web in there, and it moves. It's aggravating. But I'm like, he's like, oh, there's nothing you can do about it. I'm like, what? Because it affects my vision. So
a floater in your eye. I thought you were talking about like a Trey Galloway type of, one of those right in front of the defender. I didn't know you were talking literally.
But that's what Larry called it. But it makes perfect sense. Floater, because it moves around. I mean, if I move my head and stop, it continues moving for a second. It's weird. It's odd.
I mean, I know what you're talking about. I've never heard it described
as
a
floater in your eye. Out there. may help. Let's see. Oh boy, just looking down the comments, they're having their blue blood battle.
I noticed.
I need a bigger shovel. Oh yeah, for the breakfast. Heck yeah, man, it's great stuff. What other games are you looking forward to this weekend? We have the World Cup finals that are set. When is the finals?
John,
look,
they're 10 a.m. on Sunday, right before NFL football.
Wow.
Well, there you go. How about that?
Wow, that's something. France going for a back-to-back title, and you got Mr. Messi as well.
History at stake. But
look at this. Look at this.
Before Sunday. Oh, of course.
Floater. I guess you're talking about the floater. Just what I needed to hear.
Saturday's games. Okay, we've got number 4 Alabama against 15 Gonzaga. You obviously got 14 Indiana against 8 Kansas, 5 Houston against 2 Virginia, and then you've got 16 UCLA against 13 Kentucky and 6 Tennessee against 9 Arizona. So that's what, 5 or 6? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 games featuring top 25 teams on Saturday. So
not bad.
If you're a college basketball fan, you're going to have – and then on top of that, you've also got Davidson at Purdue, which may not look significant, but the last time Purdue was ranked number 1, they lost their first game to Rutgers last year. And then there was UConn, number 3 UConn goes to Butler. So they'll be at the Hinkle Fieldhouse this weekend. And Butler's 8-3, so maybe we'll see UConn get tested in that one. So if you're a college basketball fan on Saturday, I mean, you've got a bevy of options.
Well, there's never enough, baby. I'll be focused on one. I kind of wish that the IU Kansas game was not at noon, because
Really?
there is. Well, Kansas is one of those places you want to take in. They have a Hall of Fame. So I'm gonna have to get there really early.
And they're probably Central Time, right? So that might be an 11 a.m.
Oh, absolutely. It is Central Time.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, so that's even – yeah, I get that. I understand. You want it to be maybe a 3:30 or something, 3 o'clock.
Yeah, that would be much better. Like to take it in. But the good thing is I'll be back in Indiana Saturday night.
Well, there you go. So you're going to miss most of the basketball then.
Yeah, well, if I can't catch it on the plane, which my last flight on Spirit, I paid for Wi-Fi, did not have Wi-Fi, didn't get Wi-Fi, of course.
I'm pretty sure that's one of the biggest ripoffs in the airline industry is offering Wi-Fi. And it has never worked for me. Not once.
Well, plus you got to make sure you get the one. There's messaging and streaming, and you have to make sure you get the correct one.
Right.
So we're about to wrap up, man. College basketball is kind of at a break. It's a Christmas break type of thing, but then it really kicks in, baby. Conference play starts, and we'll be rolling for the rest of the year. It's just going to be battle after battle, whether it's the Big Ten or SEC. But the Big Ten is who's going to win the Big Ten now? Now that we've had some games under your belt, Michigan has fallen for me. I think that they're a 5th place finish at best. Maybe not even that. They may be worse than that. They may be 6th or 7th. They've lost their starting point guard to an ACL injury. Purdue has risen to probably right now be the favorite to win the Big Ten.
Purdue's probably the favorite, but there's a lot of concerns after that Nebraska game because they completely shut down Zach Edey. And I've said this a couple times. I think this is Matt Painter's best passing team, but at one point in that game, they were passing way too much. They were being too unselfish. Nobody would take a shot. And then finally, when they got down on the shot clock, they missed it. So they're going to have to figure some things out. I think some teams in the Big Ten, especially teams that have some size, particularly Indiana, I think is going to give them a lot of trouble. I think that also Purdue ran some teams out of the gym, but we'll see how good Duke is. We'll see how good Gonzaga is. They're going to be up there. I still think Illinois, they got boat raced by Penn State a few days ago, but I still think that they're going to be a top contender.
Hey, I started writing all these down. Dude, you got Purdue, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan State, Maryland, Michigan, Ohio State, and Iowa.
Wisconsin.
Flip. Wisconsin.
Because for whatever reason, they can still win games when they score.
That's 9. That's 9 teams.
Yes, I agree. I don't know.
9 teams. But the thing is, I expect those 9 teams to make the tournament.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. And look, Illinois of those teams right now. No, I'm sorry. Rutgers is in. Well, they're 6-4, but Michigan State 7-4.
We didn't even mention Rutgers, who beat Indiana. I mean, how are they decent enough? I don't know.
They're 6-4 right now. So they'll probably be a bubble team. Penn State 7-3. They're probably a tournament team. Mike DeCourcy thinks that they could be a dangerous team, which means he thinks that they'll probably be on the bubble or potentially a tournament team. I mean, what the Big Ten has had 11 teams in each of the last 2 years. There's potential that 11 or 12 teams.
That's 11
in
right there.
Right, because
I don't think they've never gotten 11 teams in. I don't think.
I think they did the last 2 years. I'm pretty sure.
We'll have to check that. But how many losses will a Big Ten champion have?
I still think 15.
Usually it's around.
I think around 15-5 will be the record for the team that wins the Big Ten, because I still think there's going to be some team in there that absolutely dominates, flexes his muscle a little bit, but who that is going to be, I have no idea.
I just would be shocked if I'd love to see the team that can get through this gauntlet with 5 losses.
By the way, fact check, in consecutive seasons, the Big Ten has gotten 9 teams in the NCAA tournament, and that's 9? The most any conference has ever gotten in, I believe.
It was that low? Wow, I was really
I kind of thought it was 10 or 11 as well, but it was only 9.
Huh. Now, the Big East, I believe the Big East did get 11 in one year, but they had like 72 teams in the conference that year.
I'm pretty sure the Big Ten has the record.
No.
That's what I was just looking at.
I think it's the most for the Big Ten.
Yeah, Big East. But it's the most per teams, I think, because the Big Ten only has 14 teams. The Big East had 16 teams at one point, and I think that they got 11 teams in one year.
That sounds right. I can't believe I was that far off. I thought it was double digits for sure, but maybe it was 9. I've clearly been wrong before. I'll be wrong again.
The Big East did have 11 back in 2011. Those teams were Pittsburgh, Notre Dame, Syracuse, UConn, Louisville, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Georgetown, St. John's, Villanova, and Marquette.
Wow.
And that included national champion that year, UConn.
That was the year they beat Butler, I believe.
That may have been one of the last years of the Big East.
Of the traditional Big East.
The split between them and the American Athletic Conference.
Right.
But the point of this whole thing is the Big Ten is going to be rugged, which we've talked about that before, but I just don't know if people realize how rugged all those teams we just listed. Indiana's already lost to Rutgers. They've got to play at Penn State. You don't play at Wisconsin this year, but you got to play them at home. Iowa, Ohio State, Michigan, Maryland, Michigan State, Illinois, Purdue. I haven't even talked about that leaves the other teams: Northwestern, Nebraska.
Northwestern, Minnesota. Minnesota right now is probably the only team that's not really much of a threat. But even Nebraska, I don't know if they make the tournament or not this year, but they beat Creighton. They took Purdue to overtime and had chances to win that game. So they're not going to be an easy out. Northwestern is sitting at 7-2 on the season. Like, what's funny, Jim, is we were talking and we thought, Illinois and Indiana at the top, probably Michigan State, Purdue in that second tier, and we thought that was about it. This might be the deepest it's been. Now, we'll find some things out. Not everybody's played the same schedule. Not everybody's been healthy. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. But, this is as deep as I remember.
That's why when you start writing them down, I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
It's difficult. But to be the champion, to be the Big Ten champion, somebody's going to have to go to Iowa and win. You're going to have to go to the Breslin Center and win.
Right.
You're going to have to go on the road, and you're going to have to win a couple of games that you're not supposed to win to be the champion, to be the Big Ten champion.
Right.
And
like you said, if to put this on an Indiana spin, like you said this a couple weeks ago, if Indiana can win all of its home games, if it can take care of business at home and split the road games, that's 15-5. And I think they have a real shot to do that. What's going to be interesting is they've got –
Indiana is not going 15-5 in this conference.
Okay.
I don't know that anybody can go 15-5 in this conference. Or not can, will. Man, that means
– yeah. You could be right.
That's 5 – okay, that's 5 road games that you have to win.
Right.
So you can probably pick go through there and pick 5 road games that Indiana should win.
Yep. Real quick, they've got at Penn State, they've got at Minnesota, These are the games that I would say you probably could or should win. At Northwestern.
Right.
So that's 3. Now the rest are probably, there's going to be a few toss-ups. They start the restart of the Big Ten, play on the road against Iowa. They have to go to Illinois.
Lost, tough one there.
At Maryland. Obviously they'll play at Purdue, at Michigan State.
So they've only got so
Michigan.
Indiana's going to have to win. I'm going to say 3. You can't put Penn State. Slide Penn State over. At home, they're going to be tougher. They played Indiana tough before. So Indiana is going to have to go win. I'll give them the 2 wins. They're going to have to win 3 road games that they're probably not supposed to win. Penn State included in that. But we're about to be out of time, so I don't want to run us over. Can't thank everybody enough today. Of course, Dustin, as always, for being with us. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Make sure you give him a follow and follow up with him. You should subscribe if you're not already. Rick Bozich, as always, usually with us on Wednesdays. Look forward to seeing him again. And John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we no reason to be here. Don't forget tomorrow, the post-game show. Special guest. Who did I tell you, John? You remember?
Did you forget, or do you need me to say it?
I was wondering if you remember.
Oh, it's Clayton Anderson, country music superstar from Indiana.
There you go. There you go. Wish we were playing his music right now. We should have played it. John, have that for tomorrow because we won't get in. There's no copyright issue.
I'll have to give it to Joe because Mr. Joe Lincoln will be doing the post-game show tomorrow.
Well, you give it to Joe, and we'll do that. And I know we're out of time, so thank you guys so much. Great week. Appreciate you all. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow from Fog Allen in Lawrence, Kansas. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.